Thank you very much, and good morning, friends and neighbors. A week ago, we spent time together to interpret the last sentences in the book of Deuteronomy in the life of Moses, the servant of God. And I told you that on that day, when we completed the reading of the fifth book, which we of the Orthodox community do every year, we immediately open up the Torah. We read right from the book of Genesis. Today, I'd like to share with you some of the words in Genesis and the message. One of the things I spoke about last week was that the last letter and the first letter of the fifth and the first book have the meaning of Lev, Lamed Beis, Lev, heart. And interestingly also, the first letter, this is just allegorically speaking, and you could look into it. The first letter of the Bible, of the Chumash in Hebrew, is a letter Beis. And those of the students of the Bible, when they study the Hebrew letters and its deeper meaning, they're always intrigued about the structure of the letter, the Hebrew letter. If you look at the letter Beis, this has a closing up, closing at the back, and then closing on the bottom. So the only opening that the base has is the front. And people wondered why God wanted to start the Torah with this letter. There are many interpretations. And I was really intrigued by the meaning of one interpreter. He said, man is always in search of the things that are above him, the things that are behind him, and the things that are under him. And to look clearly into the future, where he should really concentrate, there many of us are falling down. Many people say, I could have been rich, I could have been wise, or we are dreaming of what we could have been, instead of concentrating on who we are. People would say, I would like to be like this person, that person, I would like to be like you. When we listen very closely, we can hear from above, from heaven, why aren't you yourself? And this is where the problem begins. Because we don't really know who we are. We never find out who we are. We are groping things that are beyond us, behind us, beneath us, above us. And we waste our time with the improbability ever to totally find out these things which we call mystery, the closed parts of life. Those who are in the field of science and in the field of search will tell you the deeper they go, the more mysterious it gets. One thing is open to us. We can look into the mirror and we say, what do I see? We look at our face, and we can see that. We can see the nose, the eyes, cheek, the lips. We may be very happy with it or not so happy with it, and therefore there is a whole industry that rakes in millions and billions of dollars where people try to improve their looks. Not their character, but their looks. I want to look pretty, look beautiful, which can be very dangerous. But if people are satisfied with what God has given them, sometimes it's a burden that God gives us, and to live with that burden till we return our soul to God. The first letter in the Holy Scripture, the Hebrew letter, tells us, look ahead, look what you can see, and look what is near to you, things you can grasp and understand. Teaches us another lesson. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to accomplish the impossible. And don't find fault with yourself constantly, and you see nothing good about yourself. This is a horrible way to live. People, so God teaches us through His Scripture, He's telling us, I have given to you a way of life, choose it, live by basic principles. Above all, don't criticize God, don't criticize your neighbor, don't criticize even yourself, but just be critical with what you do and what you say and how you behave. It's good to have self-critique, but in that process don't let us destroy ourselves. There's a lot of good about us. We should not diminish our real virtues, because every human being has something which is unique. And it usually is a simple way to express our thoughts and our feelings, just to be honest. And above all, try to be helpful to another human being. If you have time left, the basic thing is take care of yourself, but leave time to help somebody else. So this is the message of the beginning of the Scripture. So you see, there's a whole course of philosophy, psychology, that when you sit there and begin reading the Scripture and you say, in the beginning God created, the Bible doesn't say it was the beginning, but in the beginning. The Bible doesn't say Rashis, but Bereshis. It was in the beginning, and there was the creation, Boro. Now the same word, Bereshis, has the three letters Boro, Beis, Resh, Aleph. The beginning was creation. And as the creation was formulated by one power we call Elohim, and in his quest to make the majestic summary of the story of creation, the important word is God. God is the first cause and the cause of all things. You have to sit there and to let that sink in. What came out of it in this encounter of God to reveal Himself? There were Shomayim and Oretz. We discovered when we wanted to know, what did you do in that very beginning? Beginning, the endlessness of the beginning. There are two things, Shomayim. Shomayim. Shomayim is a combination, could be, of Eish and Mayim, fire and water. Isn't that intriguing? We take water to quench the fire. We take the fire to dry up the water. And God took all these extremes of the natural phenomenon, and he put it together. And with it, he created the impossible dream almost of understanding. The contrasts, the things that should negate each other, sustained each other. And he came down to tell us also of Eretz. Give us earth. Interestingly, there is also a letter, a word, Aleph Resh, Or. He put in there light. It was enlightening for man to live on earth while he's groping for heaven. When he reached the outer limits of heaven, wherever that may be, he will be drawn back again to Eretz, to the earth. Now you can see it is not easy to read the Bible. You can see that the interpretations can be so deep that you can be lost in your search for what does this really mean. So some people said it was millions, billions, hundreds of millions of years. In a sense, that's immaterial. What is material is where we are here, I'm here, you are here. How do we relate to all this? What is our purpose here on earth? How far can we go? How far is our intellect, our ability to understand? And many, of course, exceed others. And there are some people who are geniuses, and others are people who can't understand too much. And people are born with a ability. Great artists, people who have a tremendous ability to create things, and others are just average. But the average man, there are so many of them, and it has been said God loved the average person. He created so many of them. But it comes down to this: no matter who we are, what we are, we shall not minimize our ability to create within ourselves a likable personality if our mind is functioning well. That doesn't happen with all people either. People have mental illnesses. They are bodily handicapped. They can't utilize everything that others can. But whatever there is a purpose and a meaning for their being here on earth. And I have to relate to those that I may not like or even dislike, but I still have to inculcate them into my daily experiences. But what was the first thing that the scripture is telling us? Very simply, he said there was an earth, unformed and void, and there was darkness. You could play with these words. If something has no form, has no real specific look or looks, and all of a sudden what do you see? Darkness. It was very deep. But then it says, in the spirit, there was the hope, there was purpose. The Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. Now we have another element. We have heaven, earth, and water. And we speak it up, Pnei Hamoyim, face of the waters. Now it's enough to see here what the mystery. It shall remain a mystery. Nobody can totally read this and understand it and come out with a strong statement, say this is the way it was, the way it is. Speculation. But one thing is sure. There was God. And that is, of course, the driving power of our existence. So that was Elohim. So this is the divine being. Those of us who are people of faith, those of us who believe in God, recognize the strength of God and the power of God, the manifestation of God, and it's within us. And it said Elohim. It's in a plural. In other words, you can't say, this is it. This is God. We don't know what God really is. And it's something that everybody has to struggle with and find an answer for. And that is good. The search of a God. The search within for a God. Did you ever search for God? Did you ask God should manifest himself within you? Well, that is a big order. But he teaches us to sit, to think, and to pray. Prayer is a form of communication with the powers beyond our comprehension. But we know they exist. But where they are, we are in search of. So when you read the beginning of the book of Genesis, which we begin our Jewish year with, in the reading of the scripture, do you understand the beautiful challenge that lies before every Jewish person particularly, who consider the Torah, the scripture, the 5 books of Moses, their personal possession, their personal challenge? It was given to us at Mount Sinai through Moses, the lawgiver. And every Jew who knows it all, has even an inkling of what it means to be Jewish, should realize that being Jewish is not a persuasion or a religion, or it has within a deep historic connotation, that we have given this to the world. We gladly shared it with the world. What we got in return was not always pleasant. At this very thought, it comes to my mind to think, and since I'm a survivor of the Holocaust, I'm one of the, we're getting older. Those of us who lived under Hitler, when we die out, and we speak of history books will write about it, and they do it even today already. They say that's a whole myth, it's a whole lie. But realizing, as I read this here, the Jew was always a thinker, tried to be, that is a given for Jewish people. If they have the gift and they're grateful to have it, doesn't come to all, to realize that they have a personal relationship with Elohim, with God. And I'm thinking today, on that fateful day when the German Nazis got together in Berlin to declare the day of infamy. They said they want to have a final solution to the Jewish problem. And the people in the world listened to that. They thought it was profound. After all, it came from the people of Kant and Schopenhauer, great minds. And so the Germans concocted another infamous statement. Die Endlösung, final solution. Why? Because they could not find a solution who God is, so they didn't destroy not only the message, but they wanted to destroy the messenger. That's a Jew. We Jews are messengers. And those of us who don't understand us, they don't like us. We're different. We are, in a sense, of history. I say this only in passing, and I go through here. This is our purpose here to study. Now, what is it really when God began to communicate whatever he had to say? And, of course, the Bible speaks in human terms. He says in verse 3 of the book of Genesis, Vayomer Elokim. And God said, so simplistic, he said, started to speak. 2 Hebrew words. We should always remember these words, Jew and non-Jew alike. Yehi or. Yehi or. Let there be light. God commanded, he said, let there be light. You could also think about that enlightenment. Let there be light. There's darkness. Is it important for every human being to open up something that light might enter in their minds, their personalities, their very being? Let there be light. You're walking in darkness. You throw a big shadow. Let there be light. And answers with 2 words. Vayehi or. And there was light. In other words, all of us who have within ourselves a neshama, which is the Spirit of God, this neshama is looking and searching for light. So when a human being lives a constructive life and does something which is worthwhile, and he creates, he looks for light. And could you think about that also, a child being born? A child leaves the environment, which is dark, and goes out into the world, opens up the first thing, see whether the eyes are all right. See the light. And there's also an English phraseology. We say, a person will say, well, I see the light. I see the light. All of a sudden, the darkness disappears and we see light. We see something. All of a sudden it dawns on us in our mind. Ah, that's what it is. A form of light comes to us. Now what could be the reaction if we see there God speaks, it happens, and then after this Vayomer Elokim, that God spoke, it says Vayar Elokim. It says that God saw the light. Now, of course he saw it. If he said, let there be light, and there was light, of course he must have seen it. This word of Vayar Elokim goes deeper. Not only that he saw it, but it became clear all of a sudden that something was created in this world. And if it really is understood and penetrates man's mind, then God said when he looked at it, the possibilities, of course, that light can create. And he used 2 Hebrew words, kitov. Kitov. It was good. It was good. Why God should say it was bad? He created it. No, he said it was good. Now the moment that it was clear that wherever there is light, there is day, there is brightness, there will be growth, there will be happiness, there will be joy. It all comes with light. And God said, let man begin to understand there is a difference between Or and Choshech. God said it was good, and let man be confused and confounded. But there is a difference between light and darkness. The scripture says so. God saw it. Of course, we also should see it. We should know when we walk in darkness, in ignorance, and our personality is rather shrouded in darkness with our attitude, our behavior. And we should spread light wherever we go, not spread darkness. People are afraid of us. So there is a great revelation that comes to us. And there are two Hebrew words. Ki tov. Ki tov. It is very good. And just let us know the difference between Or and Choshech. You can study these Hebrew words, what they mean. And I'm closing my Chumash, my 5 books of Moses, and I try to walk with you a little bit to the beauty of Scripture reading, study of it. When we get through with what we try to explore and to find, we should feel good about it. Tov. We should feel tov. It's good. And let's know the difference between light and darkness. Some people say, I don't know what it means. What's the difference between light and darkness? And the answer is very simple. In darkness you grope. In light you are awakened. You see something beautiful. So last week I sent my blessings to you all out of there in the television land who are listening to me. Open yourself up to the Spirit of God, to light. Surrender these dark spots in your personality, that which is unhealthy, and you shall have peace. God be with you, now and always.